Hey everybody, it is I, John Anthony Chihawk Soltero, also known as the Anti-Hero. Today I am here to talk to you about tropes. Um, I've been watching another YouTube channel and I've really gotten a kick out of it. It's called Comic Tropes. And on this channel, the gentleman Chris, who is the host of the channel, talks about various comic book tropes. What I'm going to talk about isn't necessarily unique to comics. It's not unique to movies. It's not unique to books or any sort of media. Um, the trope I'm going to talk about is kind of sensitive and controversial in what society we have today. You're not allowed to offend people or anything like that, but I kind of got a hankering to watch Rambo. Not First Blood, not First or Rambo First Blood Part 2 or Rambo 3. Um I wanted to watch the 2000s Rambo with aging Sylvester Stallone in, on the outskirts of Burma where he takes missionaries in on his boat and then leaves them, and then the entire village these people are there to talk to and proselytize to and witness to and give medicine to, um, are slaughtered, and the missionaries themselves, for whatever reason, are completely and totally unharmed. Taken prisoner, of course. I think a couple of them get killed trying to fight the Burmese insurgents who are coming in and trying to slaughter all the Karen people. Um, so there's a couple of tropes in this movie specifically, but one of the major tropes in this flick, in this story, is the female character who sets everything in motion and has absolutely no part or no role in the movie other than setting things in motion and causing the protagonist to act. The damsel in distress trope, if you will. So Julie Benz is in this movie, and prior to doing this movie, she was in Punisher Warzone as the widow of the FBI agent who was undercover, who the Punisher accidentally killed, or intentionally killed, but didn't know he was an FBI agent who was undercover. She did a really good job in that movie, and Julie Benz is not a bad actress. The role in this movie for her character was written extremely poorly. Um, I'm not sure if Stallone was aware of the way she's perceived. I think we're almost 10 years after this movie came out. Um, so the beginning of the movie, you see the Burmese military come in and they unload a truck full of Karen people into like a rice paddy field, and they one guy walks across one of the raised areas and he's thrown grenades off to the side, or mines or something like that. I think they're mines, but he arms them and he drops them into the murky water. Um, they then start betting on which person is going to get blown up when they run across the field. Um, so they all start running across because they have no choice. They're going to be killed anyways. Person gets blown up. Everybody freezes. Um, the general or the colonel or whoever the jefe in charge is, just motions to his second in command, and they gun everybody down. And all of a sudden, you switch over to seeing John Rambo and his team of snake hunters or whatever. They hunt snakes for entertainment for this one guy who runs a business where he has snake charmers, and tourists come and they watch and whatever. kind of a useless plot device in that, but it shows this kind of more tranquil ideology that he's left behind, being the soldier and being this guy who just destroys and kills and everything. Yet he's chosen to live just outside of this country that's been in a civil war for 60 years at this point. Um, so kind of, he's one of those individuals who, this is also another trope. It's the damaged hero trope, where yeah, he's kind of living a peaceful life, but not really, um, because he's living just on the outskirts of chaos. Um, so it's right there. He can smell it. He can taste it. He can feel it. Uh, and but maybe that kind of gives him some comfort. They say uh, uh, war veterans who saw combat oftentimes have a real hard time settling back into civilian life, and that was uh, especially true for Vietnam veterans because of the type of warfare that they saw. Um, so he's the damaged hero who has kind of made good but not really trope. Um, so along come the missionaries, and the lead missionary guy is talking to John Rambo and saying, well, we know that you're supposed to be the best boatman to get us up there, and you know the area and everything. Um, and he shuts him down. He's just like, I'm not going up there. Um, are you taking weapons? And the guy's like, of course not. We're missionaries. And he's just like, well, you're not going to change anything if you do go up there. And so the guy walks away all dejected and everything. And I don't even know what her name is, but Julie Benz's character is like, let me talk to him. And she walks over. She's not the lead missionary, as you'll find out later. She's not one of the doctors who's providing medical care, as you'll find out later. She's not one of the uh, prosthetics makers who's giving legs and arms to people who've had them blown off by mines, as you'll find out later. She's not even the documentarian of the mission, as you'll find out later. She goes and she talks to Rambo. Rambo basically tells her, look, like, you're not going to change anything. I'm not taking you in there. Um, and he goes and he's working on the propeller for a boat or something like that. At first, it looks like he's working on this like gigantic blade, which actually I think comes into play later. And it's like pouring rain. For those of you in Tucson, it would be like a monsoon, but it's just this cataclysmic downpour. And he's walking back to the small hut shack, the really modest living that he lives, and she's sitting there waiting for him. Like, she found out where he lives, which is kind of weird. Um, but also just another trope of like convenience. We have to know where you are, and she gives this monologue and soliloquy about, just because you've decided it's not worth saving these people, like, saving a life is not wasting your own life. And while that is a very true sentiment, and I believe that's what a lot of missionaries and very, very deeply religious people think, that's not what you're going there to do. You're going there to spread a word that has nothing to do with these indigenous peoples. And you're just trying to push your message out. And you're coming in the guise of like, we're giving medical care, we're giving dental care, we're giving you prosthetics. Look, we're giving you books to read. It's only one book, but it's a really good book. Um, and we're telling you that you're all good people and that, you know, this higher power will do everything. I'm not going to get into the religious side of things, even though it plays a huge part into this movie and the basis of why any of this happens. So she convinces him that um, that they should go. They're on the river. They're going up to Burma. They get seen by Burmese pirates. He tells them basically what's going to happen. He's just like, you put your heads down, you don't look at them, you don't speak, you don't say anything, you just, like, I'll do everything. And so the pirates come and they're like, we want to know what's going on. We want to know what you have on the boat. Um, Give us what you have on the boat. They notice there's a woman on the boat. Of course, they're Burmese pirates, and they're the most horrible human beings on the planet, other than the military guys who are, wasting entire villages. So, they make the motion like they're going to do something. He has a gun hidden somewhere. He pulls it in typical, like, Schwarzenegger, John Wayne, Stallone fashion, guns them all down. The missionaries are freaking out. They're screaming at him about how, like, horrible of a human being he is for saving their worthless lives because they pushed him to do something that he said was completely dumb and pointless to do. Um, he basically reads them the riot act and says, "Look, they would have taken her, they would have raped her, and then they would have killed all of you." That's how it is. That's just how it is here, and you're coming here to try to change this, and it's not going to do anything. Um, she's the one who convinced him, so she's the one who gets to decide if they keep going down. And there's another really tropian soliloquy about, like, we made a promise, we told these people we would do this, so we have to do it. No, you don't have to do anything. And after I saw something like that, I would be out of there. I certainly wouldn't have been going there as a missionary, but even I would be like, I'm not sticking around after this. Um, and so they go. He drops them off. He goes back. He destroys all the evidence. He goes back and does his own thing. They cut away to a shot at the village that the missionaries are at. You see the guy filming the documentary. You see the main guy who's, reading the Bible and telling them about Jesus and stuff like that. Um, and Julie Benz's character, and again, this is really bad because, like, other than the fact that she's basically just this plot device to move things forward, I don't remember her name. I don't remember any of the other characters' names except for Rambo. I think that's kind of the point of this movie. It's just one of those, blockbuster shoot 'em ups that was supposed to have this, like, little hint of morality in it, but it really didn't. Um, they She goes from, like, the guy reading the Bible, the head missionary guy, and she, like, touches him on the shoulder and she kind of looks at him and gives him the mother hen look where she's just like, you doing okay? Okay. And you follow the camera path of her, and she walks over to the guy doing the prosthetics and she's just like, you doing okay? Okay. And then she goes over to the doctor who's, like, working on amputations or, doing gorilla surgery kind of thing, and she's like, are you okay? You doing okay? And that's that's her role. She's not any part of this. She's not physically involved in any of it. She's teen mom in a war zone. And so it's it's super frustrating to see this character who appears to be so central and vital to the plot, and yet you use all these, just typical thought processes and basically make her a memorable character for completely effing up everything. Like, she becomes the damsel in distress, and the, the you know the soldiers come in and they slaughter everybody, and they take the missionaries prisoner. And Rambo is, like, dreaming or whatever, and he hears Colonel Troutman's voice saying John Rambo, and it's actually somebody calling his name, and he wakes up and it's some freaking attorney from Colorado who somehow finds him on the outskirts of Burma and, says, well, they went missing, they were supposed to report in or whatever. I'm like, you're an attorney, like, why are you involved? Shouldn't it be like the UN or, Department of Homeland Security or something along those lines? No, it's just some random lawyer guy from Colorado who shows up in, like, Burma, to find out where these missionaries are. So he basically just tells them, like, they're lost, we don't know, and they've hired mercenaries. This is where the story gets even better, and by better I mean horrible. They hire a bunch of mercenaries. One of them's a British guy, and the rest are Americans, and they're from. And don't get me wrong, when you're military or even ex-military, from all over the place, but it is the weirdest, most ragtag bunch of individuals led by this like ham-fisted. I'm the guy who's gonna get us out of here. See, and it, he's doing the tough guy routine. He gives this monologue about how he has alimony to pay and child support and stuff like that, and that's why he does it. And he's just like, they send these stupid Jesus freaks in here, and he actually says something to that akin, and he goes, so they call the devil me. I'm just like, I don't think I saw this in the theaters. I think I watched it on DVD first, and I don't remember what my initial reactions to it are, but years later, it just makes me laugh because this is the type of dialogue you would see in like a bad 90s action movie, a bad 80s semi-war movie where it wasn't really during a war, but you have these people who don't belong somewhere and they're just getting involved somehow. Um, you have all these like really great tropes, and by great I mean terrible. Like these, they're essentially caricatures of real human beings. Because there are mercenaries out there, there are missionaries out there, there are women who further the plot of people's lives and things like that. They're called moms and sisters, and they don't necessarily get people involved in like life-threatening situations because they were just really nice and convincing. So the mercenaries go, and they get off the boat, and Rambo tries to go with them, and they're like, "You stand right here, boatman. You're the boatman, boatman." And I swear they say boatman like 20 times within like a minute and a half. And they all go off. One guy's got this insanely gigantic sniper rifle, like high-powered sniper rifle. And don't get me wrong, like a mercenary of that magnitude would probably have a really high-powered sniper rifle. But when you're, it just I don't I don't know. I've never fired a gun in my entire life. I've never enlisted in the military. I've never. The closest I did was paintball my senior year. Um, and so they're running through everything, and they're just going through it, and they basically get cornered. Like these highly trained special forces, ex Green Beret, Black Ops, whatever, mercenaries, guys doing this for a buck. Um, they get caught. They basically get taken like they're junior high kids getting beat up by seniors in high school and, getting their Halloween candy taken from them. Like, basically, that's how quick it is. Um, and they're all about to get killed, and all of a sudden, people start, like, flying away, and you cut back to, like, friggin' Rambo, who's, like, I don't know, he's, like, in his 60s at this point, with a compound bow, just picking people off left and right with a compound bow, like Hawkeye or Green Arrow, or to a lesser extent Shaft from Youngblood. Um, and but like he's just blowing people back like they're getting hit with beanbag cannons. And so the guys pick up the guns and they gun everybody down, and they're just like, okay, let's get out of here. Like, who are you? Like, you're not a boatman. That comes back in. And so then Rambo's running the op to go get these people. And it has all this like really, really weird stuff without actually doing the deed where you're seeing somebody being sexually violated or you're seeing somebody getting their throat slit or something like that. Like there's all these allusions to it until the point, like other than people being blown up um, in the rice paddies while running across, until like one of the final scenes when they've got everybody and they're racing back to the boat, and of course they get separated, and Rambo's with the sniper and Julie Benz. Again, I don't remember her name because her character was not memorable. It was this stupid plot device that she provided. Um, and they get separated, and he like pulls a strip of her shirt off, and he like ties it to his shoe, and he tells the sniper to fire off a round, and he does, and he goes running, and he's got a claymore with him, uh, and so he makes his way past this gigantic bomb that was dropped. I think they said during Vietnam, or maybe it was World War II, and it's just a bomb dropped by the United States that never went off. And so he like puts the claymore down and like ties the tripwire to the piece of material from her shirt, and they come through with the dogs, and the dogs grab it, and the guy grabs it and pulls it, and it blows up the claymore. But then the claymore sets off the friggin' bomb, and then you see a mushroom cloud going up in the distance, and so then they're like everybody's being held captive at the boat by the rest of the Burmese military guard, whatever. And so they like have to get to the gigantic freaking, I don't even know what kind of gun that was. It overheated is like I know that. Um, and so he eventually gets to the gun and he just starts cutting dudes in half. And it's hilarious in the overt violence. Like this was straight up like 90s or late 80s Stallone Schwarzenegger type flick level of violence. There were people getting shot with this, and he was literally cutting them in half, or at their foot, their leg would get like blown off, and the body would go flying out. The foot would still be like there in the boot, like planted on the ground, like comically bad Wile E. Coyote type violence. And so, like, the story ends with the remaining missionaries um, getting back on the boat. The main missionary guy, who was just like, it's never okay to take a life after the whole Burmese pirate thing, has to, like, crush a soldier's head with a rock to save, like, one of his friends. And so now he knows that sometimes it's okay to take a life, or you have to do what you have to do, blah, blah, blah. Another trope of, like, now I understand where John Rambo is coming from. Um, so everybody who survives goes on their way. And then there's like this plot device in the middle of the movie while they're traveling up a river, um, where Julie Benz is talking to him, and he's just divulging information about his life. Like, this is a guy who has seen some of the worst things in the world, and he's survived through some of the worst things in the world, torture, being a POW, like all these things, and he's just giving up information to some woman he doesn't even know. Like, it's not a priest, it's not his best friend from high school, it's not, somebody he fell in love with. There's no love story here, and at least there's not that. But you still have all these horrible tropes where he talks about, like, she asks him where he's from, and he says Bowie, Arizona, which is when you're driving up from Tucson to Albuquerque, you pass through Bowie, which is kind of cool. It's literally a gas station and a couple of houses. Like, there's nothing there. So the credits are getting ready to roll, and you see him walking down this, like, I'm guessing it's the highway, and you see a rustic mailbox, and it says Rambo, because maybe his dad is still there. But maybe his dad died, 15 years ago, and nobody bothered to change the mailbox, and nobody claimed the home, or it's his home and it went to probate and now it's his, or whatever. I don't know. Anyways, Rambo was one of the best worst movies of all time because of the tropes. Cinematically, it was shot fairly well. The effects and the blood and viscera going all over the place were good. Um, Another trope that didn't happen in the movie that commonly happens in action movies, like his shirt stayed on the entire time. And this was the point where, like, in his 60s, where he started doing steroids a lot. Actually, when they came back from filming the movie, like, he got busted at the airport by customs because he had like a ton of steroids with him, which seems strange to like try to get that through customs. I don't know if that's like a rumor story or if that actually happened, but this is like he was so big at this point, like he couldn't just reach across and grab his shoulder. Like he had to like fold his arm, like almost pop his shoulder out to grab his shoulder like this. Like he couldn't do this. He had to come across like this. Kind of like I have to do because I'm getting wider and everything, but like nothing like that. It was uh if I was doing a hardcore review, this would, oh god, this would probably be, for the action it would be up there, but like for all the really horrible tropes that they just used, I would say this was probably, um okay, so just to cut away, I used to do a blog where I would do a hardcore review, where I would review comics, movies, music, TV shows, whatever. My grading system was a moment in wrestling history. The more hardcore the moment, i.e., the more ECW esque the moment, the more Muda scale the moment, Mick Foley winning the 95 IWA King of the Deathmatch tournament, the chair shot heard around the world from Heatwave 95, that would have, gone up the list. Like the crappier the moment in wrestling, like Hogan's leg drop or him hulking up, like, which is another trope, would have meant I hated it. Um, there was a double dog collar match in ECW, and it wasn't a tables match, but tables were involved. The Pit Bulls fought Raven and Stevie Richards for the tag belts. Towards the end of the match, Pitbull 2 super power bombs Raven off the top turnbuckle, trying to go through a table, but the table is too far out, and he doesn't throw him far enough. He just kind of chucks him like straight down at an angle, and it is vicious. The back of his head right here, and I don't know how he did not break his neck or die. The back of his neck right here hits the edge of the table, like comes in contact with it, and it skips the table out from underneath. He continued the match after that. So it's a hardcore moment because when you watch it, you're just like, ugh, but it's a botched spot. That's not how it was supposed to go. And I kind of feel like that's sort of what this movie is. It's not supposed to go this way, but it does. This has been almost 30 minutes of me ranting about a movie that's probably an hour longer than this rant. Go check it out. Go into the comments section. Let me know if I'm right or I'm wrong. Um, but I really feel like Rambo um, was pretty awful with the tropes, especially with the damsel in distress who moves the plot ahead with no real reason whatsoever. You guys have a good week. Be sure to check out the crowdfunding campaign for the Bubba Files. I will be posting a new video this weekend. And you guys have a spectacular day and a spectacular